You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor. Join the party, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, drop a like, and drop a comment if you want to support every single episode. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And as always, I'm joined by the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, more NFL draft rumors. The Rams met with a coveted tight end. We'll talk about the quarterback spot, a pretty wild trade proposal by an ESPN insider. We'll also pick up on our top 10 most memorable moments from the 2025-2026 season. But Travis, we're going to start with something a little different. A lot of draft talk. We're going to throw in just one random moment from the past, just so it's not all mind-numbing draft talk every single day. And I saw this on Twitter, and it made me laugh because I kind of forgot about this moment. The time when Aaron Donald put on his helmet with his pads were off to go across the field to start a fight with Britt. And if you remember, it was a game where he confronted him when Justin Britt had basically shoved him out of bounds late in the game. And my favorite thing about this is Aaron Donald, first of all, is walking by all these players without pads and still looks bigger than these players. And he puts on a helmet, goes across the field to start a fight. You just got to respect that.
Well, I think that the further we get away from Aaron Donald's playing career, the more we're going to appreciate stuff like what you just described. That we still, his ability to play is still too fresh in our minds. His ability to just blow up games is just, it's relatively recent history that you go like fast forward 10 years down the road. And if you told somebody what you just said, you'd be like, oh, that never happened. Only we saw it happen. And like you said, that it wasn't just that he went in there and put his helmet on. He went in there without his pads on, and he looked like he had his pads on. That Aaron Donald,
yeah.
Like the stuff of them lifting 150-pound, dumbbells, one in each hand, 2 years after he's done playing, like the legend of Aaron Donald will get taller and taller and taller, and it's going to be your responsibility and my responsibility as people that watched Aaron Donald play for the majority of his career to tell people like, no, that actually did happen. That's not a tall tale. That's not made up. Aaron Donald actually was that guy.
He was. He absolutely was. They both got fined, but I just think this is the most premeditated altercation I've ever seen in the NFL. I mean, this thing, when that like kind of thing goes off in his brain and he goes across the field to do that, it's just like peak Aaron Donald. I'll throw in one more moment too that just like crossed my mind. You thought made me think about was when he was going in to hit Geno Smith, and Geno Smith's reaction was, "Oh my God!" Like we'll never have our fingers in the grass. We'll never do anything on the field in the NFL. But that was the most relatable NFL moment that I think a fan can agree to. Geno Smith saying, "Oh my God," with Aaron Donald in his face. Like that stuff you'll miss.
No, I love how you said it. There are very few things that you see on an NFL field that you say, oh, that's exactly what I would have done. Because we can't block anybody. We can't run for a touchdown. We can't throw a ball. We can't catch a ball. We can't kick a ball. We can't do any of those things. But if you saw an enraged Aaron Donald running untouched right at you and knowing that he's getting ready to kill you, your reaction would be, oh my God, I'm about to die. And that's what Geno Smith did. And it was the most relatable thing I've ever seen on an NFL field ever.
No, I think for me, I would have juked Aaron Donald, ran up the field, scored a touchdown, but I'm built different. So, but honestly, what's crazy? Considering the circumstances of that, I think he kept his cool. Let's be honest. That was a free shot right there.
That he didn't fill up his pants was a miracle. Right? Because that would have been the normal human physiological reaction to seeing your life flash in front of your eyes. And he just threw the ball away and lived to play another day. I don't know how he snapped the ball in the next play, knowing that was still out there, knowing that it may happen again. I would have quit on the spot.
The nightmare tales of Aaron Donald. We can go on for days, but some quick draft news to get into. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reported the Rams recently met with Vanderbilt tight end Eli Stowers. He's a versatile playmaker. He's been scouted as a receiver and a tight end, 6'4", 239 pounds. He actually transitioned from being a quarterback in high school to a tight end in college, won the 2025 Mackey Award as the best tight end in the nation. Final season at Vandy. By the way, Vandy getting like 5-star recruits is definitely a new thing. There you go. It's all about the bread, right? And he's one of those talented players that have been getting the bread. So, look, I think the big takeaway from all of this is the Rams looking for these hybrid-y type of playmakers. We knew Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon is someone that has been scouted as a wide receiver and a tight end too. And also the fact that it is a tight end in a room full of tight ends that have had roles for this team, and the Rams' highest selection last year was a tight end. But what do you make of this meeting with this Vandy tight end, Travis?
I kind of look at this one like when we talked about Sadiq, I don't know, last week or the week before or whatever it was. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I just don't understand why you would take a tight end first in your draft 2 years in a row. It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, here's the exception, I think. If you believe that any of these tight ends, whether it's Sadiq or the Vandy guy or whatever, is the best player in the draft or the best player available when it comes time for you to pick, then maybe. If Sean McVay is looking at this player and saying, this guy changes everything we do offensively, this unlocks so many different packages that we can run, then okay, I'm here to listen, and I would certainly trust Les Snead and Sean McVay's expertise in that situation. But just looking at it from 1,000 feet, it's like you already have a room full of these guys. You've got Colby Parkinson, you've got Tyler Higbee, who you just re-signed, you've got Terrence Ferguson, who you just drafted. Davis Allen is a guy that plays. It's not like he's just some random guy on the roster. He actually gets in there and plays a little bit. I don't know why you would need another one unless it's just hey, this guy's going to be Tony Gonzalez. This guy's going to be Antonio Gates. Like we have a Hall of Famer waiting for us. Let's go get him and we'll figure it out from there. But if it's anything other than that, I just don't understand why you would draft a position that you used your top draft pick for a year ago to do it all over again. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
I agree on the surface level when you look at it and you say, oh, there might be some redundancy there. And then also, what does this say about how they feel about Terrence Ferguson? But I also think that it's just kind of how you frame it. Do you throw that tight end label on him, or do you throw on hey, he's a dynamic offensive weapon that can help this team in a lot of different ways? And is he a unique player as far as his skill set, kind of being hybrid-y there? Because, I mean, we talk a lot about Mekhi Lemon and him being a really good fit for this Rams offense. Stowers ran a 4.51 40-yard dash. And, I mean, the vertical leap is at 45.5 inches. I mean, that's pretty ridiculously athletic. And I know the Rams don't focus on those stats. I mean, there's this report out that the Rams are one of the teams that is following this new trend in using GPS to evaluate players, so they're not as in on combine times and things like that. But I think that the Rams do operate on feel more than you would probably guess. And they must feel like, hey, like it looks like to me that they're looking for one more piece that they think can like unlock this offense to a whole nother level. And even with their existing talent, I think he thinks that maybe this could be something that could do that.
If that's how they feel, then I'm all for it, right? If they like it, I love it. I'll go with it right there. If they think that this is a guy that's just going to open up a variety of different things, I'm in on it. I love the good. I'm thrilled to hear that they're one of the teams that looks at the combine and kind of goes, that you can run between some cones really fast. Okay, how do you play football? When someone's chasing you, do they catch you? When someone's trying to cover you, can they? When the ball's thrown your way, do you catch it? Like the actual playing of the game to me seems more important than what you're doing in the underwear Olympics. I've never put a ton of stock in that stuff. I just don't understand why anybody really does, especially this is not like when you're coming out of big schools and you're playing against other NFL level competition frequently. And I get that not every snap is going to be against a guy that's playing in the league, but there's enough snaps against guys that are going to play in the league that you get a pretty good idea of what a guy's capable of doing or not doing. That I love that the Rams are thinking like that. And if they think they got a guy that unlocks a bunch of stuff, let's go do it. but it better work, because you're basically saying that Ferguson wasn't that if you move on from him as quickly as you did. You better be right about the second time you've done it, because it's not like the team doesn't have other areas of need that you could address.
That's the thing, too, is they definitely have other areas they can go to. And the thing about Stowers is you can take him in the second round. I mean, he's probably not going to go in the first round. So what will they do with that first round pick? Well, we've got a wild trade proposal that I'm sure a lot of you guys will either support or not support, but we'll be polarizing, and we'll get into that next on Locked On Rams.
This episode of Locked On Rams is sponsored by BetterHelp. Financial stress is something that a lot of people are carrying, especially right now. And it's not just about the numbers. It can affect your sleep. It can affect your relationships and your overall mental health in ways that just kind of start to build up over time. And the reality is, struggling with money does not mean that you failed. Sometimes it just means you haven't had the right kind of support. It's something that I think about all the time, right? How just, do you have enough? Or am I doing the right things? Am I taking care of the people I need to take care of? How easy it is to put all the pressure on yourself financially without really talking about it. And that stress comes with trying to figure out everything by yourself. And therapy isn't necessarily about financial advice. It's about working through the stress, the anxiety, and the emotions that come along with all of that stuff. And with over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served, BetterHelp makes it easier to get matched and start focusing on what you need. So when life feels overwhelming, therapy can help. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a big shout out to those everydayers who watch and listen to every single episode of Locked On Rams. If you haven't yet, go check out the Everydayer Club. Go to lockedonrams.com. And go to lockedonrams.supercast.com to check it out today. You get ad-free audio. You get a members-only Discord. The chat's picking up. I will say that. Chat's picking up. Travis, we need to see you in the chat. I mean, actually, you already are in the chat, because that's my profile name is T-Raj Sweet T 1994. You graduated at UCSB, by the way.
That's pretty good. It's a good pull right there. I like that.
All right. So, exactly right. That's what we got. Your girl Corey close to the rounds yesterday. Laker game. She was on Kimmel.
Doug, you cannot keep a good gaucho down. It's just that we're undeniable. We're going to show up at the most important moments, and we also beat USC, who's one of the best baseball programs in the country. We beat them last night to give SC, I think, only their fourth or fifth loss of the season. So it is a good time to be alive as a gaucho. Man,
good stuff, man. Gotta love our gauchos. But in our second segment here, this one's going to be pretty interesting. So J.J. McCarthy has been the butt of a lot of jokes around the NFL for the last couple of years. You've seen that meme where he's used quite frequently. And Bill Barnwell of ESPN, he has an interesting trade proposal where he has the Rams trading back with the Vikings with the 18th pick and getting J.J. McCarthy. And his reasoning is that from a draft value perspective, McCarthy is worth something in that range because of the youth. The Rams would be on the hook for $6.6 million for the next 2 years, which isn't a lot for a quarterback you're developing. And then it would solve their backup quarterback issues. He's younger than Stetson Bennett. He's a project. And basically, he says, hey, the Vikings had a terrible offensive line, didn't have a good system, and Sean McVay is a coach that could potentially revitalize his career. So this was a bold one for sure. But if the Rams do want to get younger, if they do believe in J.J. McCarthy, he's got the mobility that they're looking for and the potential and some of the talent. But this seems like it could be a little bit of a reach.
Yeah, it's a really interesting idea. I think that there's a couple of things that kind of go through my mind initially. Number one, that if let's just live in a universe where this happens, okay, that this actually goes down. The reaction on the service is be like, what in the world are they doing? J.J. McCarthy was horrible. J.J. McCarthy, they basically benched him after a handful of games. Like, they saw so little in him that they basically told him to go over there and sit down and we'll get back to you later. And they really never really went back to him in a meaningful way. But if Sean McVay is seeing enough in there to move back in the draft, to bring him in, I'm curious what he sees. I'm curious if it's just feels like they're not using him correctly in Minnesota, like you're talking about, that maybe the line was bad. Kevin O'Connell's pretty good with quarterbacks. I can't imagine that he didn't get what he thought might be in there, but Sean McVay is a different animal altogether. So that's kind of what goes through my mind. The other thing is the difference between 13 and 18 isn't huge. If you think who you are going to take at 13 is still available at 18, and you can pick up JJ McCarthy as like kind of a flyer and just a what the heck kind of thing, okay, I don't hate that along the way. You're going to have to answer your quarterback of the future question at some point. Maybe you start to look at McCarthy, and if it's not there and you still have Matthew Stafford, no harm, no foul. But I just have never seen anything from McCarthy that leads me to believe that he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback. Now, I don't look through the same set of eyes that Sean McVay does, so maybe he's seeing something that the rest of us are not. But it doesn't fill me with a great deal of enthusiasm for the idea. But 13 to 18, relatively close. If you could get the same player, and if McVay wanted to do it, I would be open-minded about it.
Yeah, I mean, those are all really interesting points for sure, but that kind of make you feel like, hey, this is something that if it was on the table, you would at least have to consider. And I think a couple things about this one, if I'm going to sell this trade. So here's me trying to make a case for this trade. As you pointed out, not a big, massive difference from 13 to 18.
No.
And 13 is kind of a weird spot to be in the draft, let's be honest, because you're right outside that window where you're basically guaranteed the elite prospects. Where they work out as elite players, that remains to be seen. But as far as being elite prospects, they're above in that top 10 range. And then if you go to 13 to 18, then it doesn't feel like it's a reach to draft a Omar Cooper or a Kenyon Sadiq or something like that, right? It doesn't feel like a reach to go at them at those positions. And then also, if you take on JJ McCarthy in a deal like this, you're not necessarily saying this is a guy that we trade up for. This is the Arch Manning that we trade up for. He is the torchbearer to Matthew Stafford as the future Rams quarterback. You're just saying he's an option. You're just saying we're getting him in our building to see if we think with our own eyes, with our own development, that we could turn him into the quarterback that a lot of people thought he was originally going to be, because he's still young at 23, he's still impressionable. And the third thing too is at 18, if you would take that receiver or tight end or wherever you're going to take, and then you get JJ McCarthy, you could really say to yourself that you're probably not going to get very many better quarterback options in this draft than McCarthy, right? He's probably better than Cade Klubnik. He's better than a Drew Aller. He's better than those guys. So, yeah, I mean, the question is are the Vikings completely done on JJ McCarthy, or do they think that, like you point out, McConnell, that's a McVay disciple? He's got to probably think to himself, hey, with a better offensive line, maybe it was a little rushed, maybe he could still do it. But that's the question, like, has the ship sailed on JJ McCarthy?
Just looking from the outside in, Doug, it sure feels like it. I don't think you bring in Kyler Murray if you think that J.J. McCarthy is going to find a way to do it. And because Murray, we've talked about this a lot on Locked On Rams. Our everydayers will know this, is Murray is at his best mediocre, and he's not mediocre very often, but that they felt that was a better option, and they can say that they're going to compete for the job or whatever. You don't bring Murray in to back up, right? And I know that doesn't cost him money or those things, but it feels like Murray has the inside track there, that they benched him. And I know they called it an injury, but okay, call it whatever you want. They moved off of him quick. And they're the ones that see him in practice every day. They're the one that see him in meetings every day. And that they decided as quickly as they did to say, you know what, let's get out of this business right now. He missed his entire rookie year. He comes in, he starts, he's horrible, and they basically just punt on him right away. We've seen a lot of guys stink right out of the gate. It doesn't mean that they're bad players. It means that they're inexperienced, they're on a bad team, all of this other stuff. But rarely do you just see them rip the plug out of the wall after a handful of games, and that's what the Vikings did. So that does not fill me with a ton of confidence. If this were anybody other than Sean McVay, I'd be like, no, head for the hills, man. This sounds like a terrible idea. And it still doesn't sound like a good idea to me. But the reason you get a pass on it, I think, would be that if this is what he wants to try, okay. And if it doesn't work, it really didn't cost you all that much. I know that he covets a quarterback that can move his feet, that can run a little bit. It's nothing really that he's really had with Goff and Matthew Stafford. So maybe that's the intriguing portion of it. But I haven't seen anything from J.J. McCarthy that leads me to believe he's going to be successful in the NFL.
Another thing, too, Travis, is out of that Trent McDuffie trade, the Rams, there's a massive gap between their picks 93 and 207. So you pick up another third-round pick, you get someone at 97, and we know they like those picks. They found a lot of quality in those picks. We saw they traded for Ty Hamilton last year, and we see like Josiah Stewart and guys in that range that they've had success for. But you mentioned that the McConnell thing's pretty interesting to me, too, just kind of the dynamics of the NFL. Like, is it as simple as Sean McVay calling his old friend and saying, hey man, like, what's up with JJ? Do you believe in him? Like, does he shoot him straight on it? Or does he say like, nah, like you don't want this guy? Cause that's my thing too. Like the optimist in me always says, yeah, I believe in Sean McVay, best coach in the NFL. And the pessimist in me thinks of some of the bad highlights from JJ McCarthy. And the issue is you kind of think, wait a minute, JJ McCarthy, a quarterback in the NFL, Sean McVay is going to have to teach him how to throw a football in the NFL and things like that. So is that something that he's willing to go with as far as a reclamation project? But that's kind of the thing too.
Yeah, what makes this so much more interesting and intriguing is I don't think anybody has a real firm grasp on how much longer Matthew Stafford is going to play. Like if you knew that Matthew Stafford was in the very last year of his contract, I think you have to try to do something quarterback related, whether that's draft, whether that's trade, like we're talking about. You need to have something in the building that if we had to go into next season with a new guy, okay, let's give this a shot. But I'm not ready to shove Matthew Stafford out the door after one more year. He's coming off of an MVP year. I think you're literally in a year-by-year kind of territory with him because he's still playing at such a high level. I think it's really hard to develop somebody when you've got somebody in the building that is your starter unequivocally, and you just I can't spend a lot of time developing over here when I got to get them ready for their game this weekend. So it's just a really weird spot to be in. If they want to put him on ice kind of long term and see what happens, okay, maybe, but I don't know. I certainly not as a number one backup. That doesn't work at all. They're too good of a team. They need a Jimmy G type in there that if, hey, we got to go play the next 6 games with a backup quarterback, JJ McCarthy isn't ready for that. Jimmy Garoppolo is. Stetson Bennett is not. So I don't know why he would be here other than for a long-term play. It's just Matthew Stafford may be here, and maybe not the long term, but in the medium term, he could still be here.
I agree. And I think too, I mean, I kind of woke up at like 3:30 in the morning and was like, hey, I think we need to add another quarterback because of asset management, right? And like this is, as you point out, you don't have to play him. You could develop him in the system. You could trade him for a comp pick later. It's asset management. And like, I think that's something that you look at. But I would love the fact that you add another top 100 pick and then you feel good about who you would take at 18. I mean, even Jordan Tyson with some of the recent stuff could be available there. So yeah, I'm not totally against it. I really am not. Like for me, I'm just more open to the idea of bringing in a quarterback that wouldn't ruffle the feathers of Matthew Stafford. Like I think that's on the table certainly.
You know, we've talked about that on my radio show, and is there a scenario where Stafford has ruffled feathers? Like, is he really looking over his shoulder at J.J. McCarthy or anybody else for that? Like, if you brought in Patrick Mahomes, sure. If you brought in Joe Burrow, yeah. But I can't imagine a scenario where he sweats J.J. McCarthy of all people.
No, it's not a situation where he's Woody and he sees Buzz Lightyear and he's afraid he's going to go to Sid's house and all that stuff, right? It's not that situation, Travis. I think it's more of like, hey, like, dude, I may have 1 or 2 more prime years or elite years in me. Like any less weapons for me or things that can help me now would piss me off. Like it's not there's no one they could bring in that could say, I mean, he's our guy. Like he's our glorious king. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but yeah, I agree though. But like there's something about like the way he carries himself too. Like he doesn't seem like a guy, at least publicly, the way he presents himself, that would take something the wrong way. And also, too, that he wouldn't be in lockstep with Sean McVay in the organization. I don't think this is a Packers situation. I don't think they did a great job up there communicating with their guys. I think they do a much better job of that in LA.
Yeah, I agree that the weird thing about the Packers, not to get too far on a tangent, is while they may have ruffled Brett Favre's feathers with Aaron Rodgers, and they may have ruffled Aaron Rodgers' feathers with Jordan Love, you know what they've had? They've had an NFL quarterback calling their shots for like 30 years. That's a pretty good run to do. And if I gotta put a guy's nose at a joint to do it, okay, fine, I'm willing to do it. I agree with you. I don't think that's what would happen here. I think the communication would be a lot better, but I might be willing to do it if I could get my hands on the right guy. I just don't think JJ McCarthy's the right guy.
Oh yeah, for sure. One of my best friends, Joey. Shout out to Joey, Oregon Duck. Joey? He is the biggest Packers fan, and when they drafted Jordan Love, he called me all pissed off, and I literally said to him, "This is the most pissed I've heard you since they drafted Aaron Rodgers." right. So that's definitely the thing. But coming up next, we're going to continue our list. Most memorable moments from the 2025-2026 season. The vibes have been picked up on this next portion of the list. Let's just call that what it is. But that's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And welcome back to Locked On Rams, the number one Rams podcast, part of the number one sports podcast network, the Locked On Podcast Network. But all right, Travis, we're going to pick it up. And I think that the next moment on our list is the Rams beating the Lions in that game last season. And there's always this buzz about the Rams and the Lions just kind of being this little mini temporary rivalry with the whole Goff, Stafford, and Sean McVay, and just everything that kind of goes on. It was just an explosive game. The Rams win 41-34, and they punched their ticket to the playoffs with that win. It definitely was one of the highlights of the regular season.
Okay, you ready? I'm gonna confess something to you and to our Locked On Rams everydayers. I remember that they played the Lions. I remember that they scored a lot of points against the Lions. I don't remember a single thing about that game, Doug. Like it's like granted, I've been doing this a long time. I've watched every game, and a lot of them stick in my memory. Some of them slip through the cracks, but the fact that it was a Goff game, the fact that it was a Lions-Rams game, like you said, that all the stuff that comes along with it, that then the Lions knocked the Rams out of the playoffs, a couple of years ago, that they were traded for one another, that Dan Campbell is such a character, all of that stuff. I'm really surprised that I can't remember it. The only thing I remember is that the Rams scored 1 million points, and there was one of those times at the end of the day, I'm like, great win for the Rams. Like you mentioned, they punched their ticket along the way, but thinking, man, they gave up a lot of points again. What happened to our defense at some point along the way? But other than that, the details of that game have completely escaped my memory.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those games where it was one of those sluggish starts by the Rams at SoFi. The Rams trailed by 10 early, and then they made it all the way back. And it wasn't this massive finish. Sometimes you see a 41-34 game, and it could be more dramatic than it is. But really, there was a play at the end of the game where they kind of got a gimme touchdown with David Montgomery late in the game. But yeah, it was just kind of one of those convincing wins. Parkinson had a nice game. It was Harrison Mevis making field goals, and Puka Nacua, went crazy. But yeah, I think it's kind of one of those wins where the Rams make the playoffs again after kind of what was a run where you felt like that was kind of the first step in the ultimate goal.
Well, it's funny. Like I'm gonna get this in at the wire here at the 28-minute mark. It's kind of like that series against the Giants in July. That's like, yeah, there's a rivalry here, and then it's like, well, what happened in that series? I don't know. Like it's in one ear, it's out the other. This one, I maybe I'll go to the doctor after we're done recording today's pod, because I have a weird memory where I remember a lot of things, like random games and random seasons, and this one didn't happen that long ago. What week in the season? Obviously, they clinched a playoff berth, so it had to be relatively late into the season. I'm worried that my brain is failing me. I can't remember any of this stuff.
It really wasn't that memorable a game. Like, don't be too hard on yourself. It really was. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I went back and watched like the YouTube highlights of it, and it was just one of those games where, like, I like petty rivalries in sports, and the Lions had beaten the Rams for the last two meetings, and I don't know, like. The Lions, here, I'll give you this.
Yeah.
We got 49ers fans. Like, let's be honest, man. This show, from a comment standpoint, can go off, right? And I would say the fan base that hates us the most, that has actually had our names in their subreddit is the Detroit Lions fan base. And I can't explain why. You would think it'd be like, we talk about everything. The Niners, it's the Lions. We've made Lions fans big mad. And that's kind of that was a little bit of a subplot of it too.
Yeah, I believe you. And I think if I had to try to play armchair psychologist on why we're in their comments more than other teams is, you hate the better looking older brotder. That's just the way it works.
And that's what we are.
It's just that we took your girl, we went to the prom, and it worked out for us. What do you want? We didn't do anything wrong.
They're not like a bloodline's little brother. They're like an adopted like ginger or something. You know what I mean? Like
Sure. Like we took the girl and we went to the prom right away, and we had a really good prom, and we ended the night successfully. It's like I don't know, sorry, sorry not sorry kind of situation, but I love it. I like that we bother them, and but my favorite part about it is we bother them, and I didn't even know it. That makes it even sweeter.
Hey, tonight, if you're after your show, it's 7:30 on ESPN Classic. They're re-airing the Rams-Lions from this past year, where the Rams won. ESPN Classic. By the way, RIP to ESPN Classic. Actually doesn't exist anymore.
I love that channel. That was a great channel. There was always good stuff on there.
Stump the Schwab.
Oh, yeah.
Cheap seats.
Cheap seat. I'm sure you beat me to it. I love cheap seats. That was a great stuff.
Bring it back. Shout out to Sklar Brothers. But hey, tomorrow on the top moments, we're gonna keep it up. So we're gonna keep it up. We're gonna do one every show. But Rams get the win over the Lions, clinch a playoff spot. Definitely up there for 2025 and 2026. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. You can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers, and tune into his radio show, Travis and DeMarco, ESPN LA, 3 to 6 drive time. Definitely essential listening for all Rams fans and LA sports fans and sports fans, just fans of anything, really. Fans of life, okay? Scott Rowland fans, okay. We're going to start airing the pre-show convos, guys. Scott Rowland, a legit Hall of Famer, let's just put it that way. St. Louis Rams fans, I know you agree with me on that one, okay? That's going to do it until next time. Whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.